and welcome into the offseason. I'm Cassie Carlson, and we have the Tribune's Dan Wiederer in studio today to break down the Bears draft. So let's start broad with this. They have 8 draft picks. Your overall reaction to what they were able to do last week?
Yeah, Cassie, I think they got a lot to work with here. Look, you have the first-round tight end that you expect to be a really good fit for Ben Johnson. You give him another weapon in day 2 with Luther Burden. You address needs throughout the draft. And then day 3 for me, a little bit was kind of a shrug-worthy day 3. Sometimes that's what day 3 is in the NFL draft. You're not expecting to get a bunch of stars there, but I do think that they're going to have to figure out a way to develop and work with some of those prospects so that they're not just big misses on the last day of the draft.
You know, I was up in Green Bay. You were at Hallis Hall in Green Bay. It was all like, are the Bears actually going to trade up for Ashton Jeanty and really get this running back? I'm not sure if it was the same sort of scenario at Hallis Hall too, but they don't take him, and then they take Colston Loveland, a tight end, 10th overall, and really a guy that wasn't necessarily on my radar because there was so much talk about Tyler Warren and the Bears heading into this draft. But after watching the film and knowing what Ben Johnson has and had in Sam Laporta in Detroit, it started to make more sense, and you could see how Colston Loveland made sense for the Bears.
Well, you can see how he makes sense for Ben Johnson. You can see how he makes sense for Cole Kmet, and you can see how he makes sense for Caleb Williams. And so you pair those 3 guys together, and you see a really dynamic player that can fit into this offense and really give you a new dimension and a new dynamic to things. I think when you talk to evaluators throughout the pre-draft process, a lot of people had Loveland and Warren very close together, and I think it was similar at Hallis Hall with where they were stacked on the draft board. And so then you are looking for fit. And in Loveland, they see a guy that can be really dynamic as a pass catcher. Everyone talks about his ability to separate. Jeff King, the senior director of player personnel at Hallis Hall, talked about Todd Heap as a comp, as a guy who was really able to get snap at the top of the route, be able to create his own space, get distance from a defender, and become a really, really friendly target for a quarterback. Caleb Williams could use some more really friendly targets. And then as
he's got a lot now.
It's great, right? Like, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. But like when you think also about Cole, I think there was some worry there when that pick was made. Does this mean anything? Are the Bears going to get rid of Cole Kmet before the 2025 season starts? My answer to that is a big fat NO, capital letters. These 2 guys pair well together where Kmet can serve that inline dimension a little bit better, and then you can spread Loveland out as a chess piece. And with some of those other playmakers you have, it could get really fun for Ben Johnson.
They take 2 luxury picks with the first 2 days. First, they go with Colston Loveland. Then they take Luther Burden III out of Mizzou, someone who dropped out of the first round, and now people are calling the steal of the draft. What do you think the Bears saw in him that maybe people didn't want to acknowledge in the first round?
Well, look, I think with Luther Burden, it's really easy. The talent is there. It's first-round talent. He's very dynamic. 2 years ago at Missouri, he had a huge year. The production dipped in 2024, and so the questions are why? You know, what was the situation that took his performance down a level in 2024? I think there's some worry that he's a guy that doesn't necessarily respond well when the ball's not coming his way regularly. Well, guess what? The ball may not be coming your way regularly as a rookie in this offense with these playmakers that you have around you. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. There are a lot of mouths to feed. And so it is a challenge for Ben Johnson. This is a leadership challenge. You have to be able to massage egos. You have to be able to try to keep guys invested, engaged, and happy as they go through this process. I think production and winning will help, but that is still a challenge for a coach. And so could Luther Burden be the steal of the draft? Absolutely. Could he be a guy 3 or 4 years from now we're looking back and saying, oh yeah, of course it didn't work out? Absolutely. And so now it's in his hands. I do think the Bears took a big leap of faith in a couple things here. Number 1, it's the passion that Luther Burden has and the competitive fire he has. And number 2, Antoine Randall, who we got to meet recently, and they believe him as the receivers coach can be a very productive overseer of what Luther Burden does in his daily existence up at Hallis Hall. That's going to be a big leap of faith for that coaching staff to get the most out of this pick.
Well, Ben Johnson also saw directly how Antoine Randall worked with Jamison Williams in Detroit. So I have strong belief that he has a ton of faith that he will be able to take in Luther Burden and build that relationship and coach him to his best potential. Here's what Ben Johnson had to say about having more talent on this roster.
If you want to play, you got to go earn it. If you want a role, you got to go earn it. They know that. So we were very straightforward and honest with them when they came into the building. I think all we did this weekend was we might have just turned up the notch, just a couple of dials for certain people in the building. So that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing. That's where you bring out the best, not only in your team, but in each individual.
When I heard that, I initially was drawn to the wide receiver room, and Luther Burden, given the fact he was a 5-star recruit, he plays in the slot. We know how important that position is in Ben Johnson's offense, and Amon-Ra St. Brown having that role in Detroit. We know it's going to be different in Chicago. But is he going to be that guy for the Bears?
They see him having the ability to play outside. They see him the ability to be a dynamic slot receiver, and he can also be a guy that you can use as a ball carrier, jet sweeps, maybe get creative, use him out of the backfield a little bit and figure out what you can do with him. It's going to be interesting, though, with all these pieces that you have to play with, because in Detroit, Ben Johnson's second tight end was Brock Wright. His number 3 receiver the last couple of years was either Josh Reynolds or Tim Patrick. These guys are used to playing roles. They're used to being complementary pieces and not the focal point of the offense. Now you've got 5, 6 guys on your offense that are used to being the alphas, and getting alphas to kind of step back and accept a lesser role is a challenge.
I thought for sure the Bears were going to be taking a running back likely on day 2. They don't, and they missed the running backs out of Ohio State, the run on them. Caleb Johnson's taken in the 3rd round. So I'm looking at Kyle Monangai, a 7th round pick out of Rutgers, who coaches rave about him. That's fair. But is he a 3-down back? No. And who is the Bears' 3-down back that's going to be paired with DeAndre Swift now?
And Kyle Monangai is a round 7 pick.
Right.
So expectations have to be set accordingly. To your point, coaches rave about his tough running style, the way that he approaches his daily existence. He's a guy that is going to give you everything he has and squeeze every drop of potential from his journey. But he was also the 22nd running back taken in this draft. And so I do think that the board kind of moved away from the Bears this weekend. You mentioned Genty earlier. I think there was serious interest in seeing if they could find a price tag for a trade that would make that possible. Never did. Day 2, I think they were really interested in moving up to go get Travion Henderson, or hoping that he would fall to them at 39. It didn't happen. They traded out. The run on running backs kept occurring, and the Bears are the 21st team to dip into the running back shelf on day 3 of the draft. So now the question on who the complementary piece to DeAndre Swift is open-ended. Roschon Johnson, does he have a chance at having a more heightened role? Do they go back out into the free agency flea market, see what's left there, and see what's out there? Usually in May, on the veteran free agency running back shelf, it's guys who are old, injured, or old and injured.
Nick Chubb, just address the obvious this week.
And so, that's what you have to explore and figure out. Does that make sense now? Can we make the best of what we have in-house? And that's going to be part of their task in May, to figure those questions out.
My prediction of this offseason is going to be there's going to be some shakeup at those tackle positions, because there's a huge question mark after they don't take a left tackle. Is Braxton Jones going to be healthy, coming off ankle surgery? And is Karan Amagaji ready to be a starting left tackle? Then they take Trapillo out of Boston College. He played right tackle. Ryan Poles mentioned that Darnell Wright can play left tackle. So you start grinding the gears of what is this going to shake out to be? Do you think that we're going to see a lot of shifting at those tackle positions?
In the short term, yes, I do. And I think, look, I asked Ryan Poles before the draft, do you see Darnell having the flexibility to go to the left side? He said absolutely. After the draft, he reiterated, absolutely. We see Darnell having the flexibility to go over to left. He did play there at Tennessee. And when you talk to the coaches at Tennessee, after the 2023 draft, they said the move to right wasn't performance-based. It was team needs-based. And so Darnell raised his hand, said, I can go over there and play the right side, and did really well there. So he does have the flexibility to go to the left side. I think the month of May, particularly at that position, is going to be a lot of mixing and matching. You mentioned Braxton Jones isn't going to be out there as he recovers from this ankle injury, so you need somebody to even just take the reps over there. So as you mix those pieces over there on the left side, you've got to mix some pieces on the right side. It's a okay experiment to take on. I think ideally, when we get toward those preseason games in August, you want to have pretty sturdy idea of where you want to go with that line, because you don't want to spend the entire preseason like we've spent several preseasons
think about it the last couple of years. It's like
who's here, who's where, and who's everywhere.
All right, you look at this team, you have Ben Johnson, and then you have the roster and this offense. We talked about it, overhauling the interior of their offensive line. They draft a tight end, another wide receiver. Mind you, they took Rome Odunze after Caleb Williams last year. Then you pair it with DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift. So on paper, it looks like you have everything you could possibly need to be an explosive offense. Maybe not a left tackle, which you would have liked to maybe address in this draft. What does this all mean for your quarterback, who you drafted number 1 overall last year, that's now entering a second season where you're hoping to see it jump off the charts?
It's funny because Mark Grody and I were talking about this on the Take the North podcast, about all the conversations we've had since before free agency to the end of the draft, about all these topics that revolve around the Bears. And they're all relevant, significant topics. But the only topic that really matters is Caleb Williams.
How do we forget?
Does he make that huge developmental jump in his second season that everyone's expecting? And if he doesn't, the Bears have bigger problems than everything else we've ever talked about. The key here is now finding him the optimal way to maximize his talent. So what have they done since January? They've gotten him one of the most proven play callers in the league in Ben Johnson. They went out in free agency and via trade and bolstered the interior of his offensive line. We went through the long list of playmakers that he has to distribute the ball to. This is on Caleb now, right? Like, Caleb has a huge year ahead of him. It's going to be very telling what his trajectory is by the time we get to New Year's Day. And at that point, we'll know the direction of the Chicago Bears for the next 5 years, right? If Caleb seems like he's on the escalator up, everyone's going to feel great no matter what the record is. If it feels like he's struggling and the click with Ben Johnson hasn't been there and the click with all these playmakers hasn't been there, oh man, Cassie, buckle your seatbelt because it's going to get loud in this city.
There's always something that happens every Bears season that you never expected to come. So I think buckle up is the perfect way to put what we might see. All right, Dan Wiederer, we appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the offseason. Still to come, Mizzou head coach Eli Drinkwitz on what Bears fans can expect to see from Luther Burden. And I go one-on-one with the Bears' 10th overall pick, Colston Loveland, where we discuss growing up in Idaho and how he hit it off so well with Ben Johnson and his understanding of rivalries. That's next on the offseason. We actually just got to talk to Sharon Moore, and he was talking about you, and one of the things that stood out, he said you are ultra competitive, whether it's in football or he said talking about LeBron versus Jordan. So you're obviously in Chicago now, so we need to ask you, who's the GOAT, LeBron or Jordan?
That's tough.
You just got a crowd reaction.
I love Chicago, but I got to go with my guy, Bron.
I don't know if you might have just failed the first test.
I got to. I'm sorry.
You're gonna have to
I'm
make
playing.
that up to Chicago with some
I'm playing.
touchdowns or something. But he also talked about you growing up in Idaho. You know, going to Idaho, and it's a town of what, 3,000 people?
Yeah, 3,500. Yeah.
Which is crazy. Now you're in a city of 3 million.
Yeah, different.
Paint the picture for us. What is Gooding, Idaho look like, and where you grew up? What's it like?
Yeah. So imagine like the smallest town in Illinois. A bunch of farm fields, just farmland, ranch, cows, sheep, horses. Like, it's pretty just secluded. Not a whole lot going on over there.
Simple life.
Easy, yep.
So
simple.
how does that shape you into who you are today?
I think just like I was blessed enough to obviously grow up with a great family, and they raised me the right way, and like just the community. Like, I got a bunch of family that lives there, so I feel like it's just a very hard-working community. You know, blue collar, everyone just works, and that's kind of all they do. So I think that definitely helped shape me into the man I am today, and I think definitely coming from Idaho was a blessing for sure.
And you were involved in rodeos growing up?
At a young age, yeah.
Explain that to people in Chicago.
Yeah, so rodeos, like, yeah, a bunch of different events. It's a sport, a bunch of different events. You can ride bulls, ride broncs, rope steers, rope calves, barrel racing, a bunch of different events. But I just did like goat tying, goat flanking. These were like junior rodeos too.
Okay.
But I did like goat tying, goat flanking, and like rode a calf, I think. So they're pretty fun. I'd recommend going out to a rodeo if you haven't been to one.
All right,
cool.
There you go. There's some tips when you go visit Idaho.
Yeah.
Let's talk about football, because you played everywhere on the field in high school. Is that true?
Yeah. Yep. About everywhere, other than like D tackle.
Okay. So what turned you into a tight end?
I think it was like originally I played receiver, and then I just kind of I was big, like really big, and then not like a 4-3 guy, 4-4 guy. So I was like, try tight end. And like junior year, I played tight end and loved it. Like, loved everything about it. It's like the quarterback, except a step down. You know, you kind of got to know everything. So I fell in love with it, and then obviously went to Michigan and got even more developed, and it was a really good decision.
Sharon Moore was talking about how your route running, it developed over time, but now you're highly touted for it. Over time, what did you learn as the keys to becoming a good route runner?
Yeah, I feel like this last year I got like a big step, took a big step in my route running. Shout out to Coach Kasula, who's my tight ends coach. I think like it was just the details. I was just kind of lacking details, and like head down, forward lean, long strides, you know, like eyes to the man, a bunch of different stuff that we could get into a lot deeper. But yeah, just the details. It was really the small details. And once I started putting those together, it was just more separation. It was just getting way more open. So
you mentioned with your meeting with the Bears at your pro day, hitting it off with Ben Johnson. You said, I like them, they liked me. So obviously you picked up on their energy. And they said you were a perfect fit for the culture and what they're trying to build here, along with your versatility. What did you pick up in that meeting where you're like, I could really see myself fitting in with this team? Yeah,
just the personalities and like the attitude. When I first walked in, I was like, the energy, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm already a big fan of these guys. And then just talking ball and like seeing obviously what Coach Johnson has done and can do. And at an organization like this, like it was like definitely lit up, and I was like, all right, I could definitely see myself being here. So I'm just happy it all worked out. Shout out to everyone here for trusting in me and believing in me.
You were right down the road from Detroit. How much did you watch Laporta and Ben Johnson and how he used him?
All the time. No, every time I feel like we were watching the game, it was like, man, he's good. Man, he's good. Just always scheming ways to get people open, find ways to get people open. And he's really good and he's going to do good things here in Chicago.
You said you got a call from your quarterback shortly after you were drafted. You want to share kind of what the message was from him?
Yeah, he was just like super excited to have you here. We're gonna get on your butt. We're gonna Coach Johnson's gonna be hard on you. We're gonna be hard on you, which is wouldn't want it any other way. But he just said we're super excited. I'll show you around when you get out here. Looking forward to winning games.
I know you played with J.J. McCarthy. Did you ever come to Chicago with him, or was that mostly when you guys were in Michigan?
Yeah, no, I've never been. Yeah,
Okay.
This is my first time in Chicago.
All right, so first impressions are what? You're not really in the city right now. But
No,
you're in
yeah.
Lake Forest.
Yeah,
First
it's cool.
impressions are?
Yeah, I get used to it. I can call this place home for sure.
Sharon was saying they only have seniors as captains at Michigan.
Yeah.
But if you were to be a senior, you would have been a captain of that team. Describe your leadership style and what you're going to bring to this locker room.
Yeah, I think early on it's important to just put your head down at work and earn the respect of teammates, coaches, and earn that trust. And I think you got to go out on the field and do it before you can do anything. So that's the first step, is just go prove myself on the field, just put my head down and work. I haven't proved anything yet, so I got a long ways to go. I think that's the most important thing, and then leading by example. And then, once you have done it for a while, like some of these vets, you can start speaking up and just making sure you're holding everyone accountable and everyone on the same page.
Do you have one play that you feel like sticks in mind, as if someone were to go type in Colston Loveland highlights, you would point them to and be like, that is the epitome of who I am as a player?
Yeah, I think it was freshman year Purdue, Big Ten championship.
Okay.
Little wheel route out of the backfield.
I didn't know if it was going to be that one or your first touchdown.
That
which
one
we
was
just learned about too.
Yeah, that one was sweet
And apparently
too.
you shushed the crowd.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Moore said you have ice in your veins.
Yeah.
So you understand rivalries. Do you understand the Bears-Packers rivalry? Have you heard of it already? In
Yeah,
a short amount of time?
yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, I actually got a lot of Packers fans at home, and they were already chirping. So, but yeah, I understand the rivalry. Like you said, coming from Michigan, the game, and we have actually had a couple rivalries. So I understand how important it is, and you got to win those games, and anything could happen in those games, no matter how the record is on both sides. So, yeah, it's war week for sure.
Love that. Colston Loveland, welcome to Chicago.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The Bears went tight end, wide receiver with their first two picks. Coming up next on the offseason, what makes Luther Burden such a steal, and how will he fit into Ben Johnson's offense? Mizzou head coach Eli Drinkwitz joins the offseason when we come back.
Luther, stud. You saw the highlights, right? I mean, he's a playmaker waiting to happen.
Lions receiver Jamison Williams, also a huge fan of the Bears' second-round draft pick in Luther Burden. He texted Ben Johnson saying, "You got a dog just like me." And no one knows Burden better than his college coach, Eli Drinkwitz, who is kind enough to talk to us about Luther Burden. So, Coach Drink, do you agree? Is Luther Burden a dog?
Oh, he's definitely that, and he's more than that. He's an elite competitor. He's got unbelievable ability to change the game with the ball in his hand. I think he's a perfect match for a coach and what the offensive scheme is going to be. Really excited about him getting an opportunity in Chicago.
Yeah, let's start with how he might fit in Ben Johnson's scheme. A really good slot receiver. So as an offensive-minded coach, you're getting this five-star recruit, and instantly, how are you thinking of ways that you want to use him and really show off his best capabilities?
Yeah, I think that's what makes Coach Johnson so unique and why he's the head coach of the Chicago Bears is he's got a creative mind. He's very innovative. And we know the best playmakers are the guys with the football in their hands. And so I think Coach will be very smart about making sure that they give Luther the ball with some space, whether that's handoffs, which is the easiest way to getting the ball, whether it's specific routes, screen game. There's just really an unlimited repertoire of what Coach can do to get Luther the ball.
I was listening to you on the Rich Eisen show, and you said one of your favorite parts about going through the pre-draft process is talking to general managers and combating rumors with truths. Where did you feel like you were having to share different things about Luther Burden throughout the process that maybe got misconstrued?
Yeah, I just think the way Luther has grown up and where he came from, I think people kind of misunderstand who he is as a young man, like maybe he's a diva or a prima donna, and that couldn't be further from the truth. He's very much introverted. He's very much comfortable with being a star football player, but he doesn't need that in order to find himself. He's really just about competing and working really hard, and so I think people misconstrued his introvert as standoffish, and that's not who he is at all. He's going to be a great teammate. He's going to be awesome to work with. I know the rest of those guys are going to enjoy having him in the building. He's really a fun-loving guy, and I know the coaches are going to enjoy being around him.
He seemed like he was pretty motivated after he didn't get taken in the first round because we saw those late-night Instagram stories of him in the indoor facility working out. Is that who he's always been, kind of having that chip on his shoulder?
Yeah, he's always been an Instagram guy, but no, he's always been a hard worker. I think he does a tremendous job of keeping the right kind of chip on his shoulder. Look, at the end of the day, this is one of the first times he's faced adversity as far as an athletic performance. He's always been the five-star best player, and now he got humbled a little bit, falling into the second round. But ultimately, I think it's the perfect situation for him. It's the right fit for him. God wrote this story a long time ago, and now he just gets to go out and live it. And if Chicago got a little bit more motivated, Luther Burden, then look out NFL.
I love that line. We're going to save that one for later. Ben Johnson has this saying. He says, "No block, no rock." What can you tell us about him as a blocker?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that he's really prided himself on. I think if you really wanted to go back and look, there's a clip. We're down 14 points in the fourth quarter to Auburn. There's a pass to Mookie Cooper. Mookie's getting caught, and Luther comes sprinting past Mookie on the screen and blocks the safety. He is going to be unselfish. He is going to block. It might not be devastating, but he is going to get in the opponent's way, and I think he'll be an unselfish player for y'all.
It's kind of the interesting part of the draft process because someone gets taken by a team and instantly everyone's going to their stats and looking at them and saying, well, he did this, he did that. And with Luther, it's like, why was there the drop off last season? He talked about it a little bit and he said he felt like teams really tried to eliminate him from the game plan. What was your take on why the stats maybe weren't as high as they were 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think obviously there was a more awareness of who Luther was. I think there was a little bit of an adjustment from us offensive philosophy standpoint. But then when you start really getting into the actualities of it, he only played the first half of game one. He only played the first two series of game two. Game 3 and 4, he dominated. Game 5, he had an 80-yard touchdown called back, which is a stat killer. UMass, he only played the first half. Auburn, Brady Cook got injured in the first quarter. Alabama, he got injured in the second half and didn't play and didn't play in the entire Oklahoma game. So when you add that up, that's about 5 games of production right there that are not where we wanted to be from a fully functioning unit. And I think that's really the truth of it.
I was reading an article on ESPN today, and it had Luther Burden as the #1 steal of this draft. Give us a little taste in Chicago. Like, what would you tease Bears fans that they're going to see with this guy when he's on the field?
Well, I think they're going to see a relentless competitor with the ball in his hand. They call him Touchdown Luther. He's had that nickname since he was in the JFL League in St. Louis, and he's the same thing here. When the ball is in his hand, the guy's got a stubborn refusal to be tackled, and I think that's going to be exciting for the Bears fans. Obviously, you're only as good as your surrounding teammates. I think Chicago's done an unbelievable job of retooling the offensive line, surrounding Caleb with elite players on the outside, with the tight end. Obviously, they got Luther. Obviously, they got Roman Odunze. Obviously, they got DJ Moore. So there's a lot of weapons there, and Lou's not going to have to be the main show. He's just going to be another piece of the puzzle for Chicago to be the best version of itself. I can't wait for my first trip to Soldier Field because I can't wait to go watch him play.
Eli Drinkwitz, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. MIZ.
Jam-packed show this week on the Offseason. Thanks for watching. You can catch full extended interviews and previous episodes by heading over to the Fox Local app or going to the Fox 32 Chicago YouTube page. Rookie minicamp coming up next week at Hallis Hall. We'll see you then.